Welcome to The Source of the Rings. This is a new series about potential coding in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, specifically in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. While I love these works, various adaptations and fan works have interpreted the appearances of the characters as homogeneous, all roughly looking like medieval Anglo-Saxons or Nordics, both in physical characteristics and in craft work. The purpose of this series is to re-examine the texts, explore the inspirations, and analyze what ties the characters might have to the real world. For the first episode of the series, we will be looking at Gandalf. Gandalf, one of the 5 Istari, or wizards, crossed into Middle-earth from Valinor around the 1000th year of the Third Age. Manwë sent the Maya, known as Olorin, with the purpose of helping combat Sauron. Olorin, in the form of an old man in grey, gained the name Gandalf, and became one of the leaders of the peoples of Middle-earth, traveling to different lands and providing guidance and friendship. Most notably, he led the Fellowship of the Ring until Moria, and helped rally the armies of Rohan and Gondor in the War of the Ring. Gandalf was a nomadic being, formed great relationships with the hobbits and other free folk of various locations, and is one of the most famous characters from the trilogy. Gandalf is described as the Grey, as an old man with a staff. He had a tall, pointed blue hat, a long grey cloak, a silver scarf over which a white beard hung down below his waist, and his immense black boots." End quote. And as the White, his hair was white as snow in the sunshine, and gleaming white was his robe. The eyes under his deep brows were bright, piercing as the rays of the sun. So his physical body isn't given any description of skin color. What items does Gandalf carry? Well, there is his staff. In The Hobbit, he obtains Glamdring, a long sword with an ornate scabbard. There is the aforementioned hat, described elsewhere as wide-brimmed. He also bears the Ring of Narya, a gift from Círdan the shipwright, and he often smokes out of a pipe. Finally, he carries fireworks, and seems to be the only being in Arda with knowledge of the craft. Some external information for the origins of Gandalf include his name, character, and appearance. The name came from the Voluspa, an Old Norse poem. In this poem, though, Gandalf is a dwarf and bears little resemblance to the Wizard of Middle-earth. He is described as being Odinic, or like Odin, the chief god of Norse mythology, by J.R.R. Tolkien, but only in that he is a wanderer. Gandalf, after all, isn't a god associated with ravens, or father to Thor, or owner of only one eye. We also know Tolkien wrote on a postcard by Joseph Madlener, Der Berggeist, the words, "Origin of Gandalf." This figure seems to be the physical inspiration for Gandalf, at least only partially, as he wears red, not grey or white. Still, he does have a beard and a wide-brimmed hat, so this may in part be what Tolkien truly envisioned Gandalf as. So to what conclusions do these aspects lead? Well, the common interpretation is to portray Gandalf as a Western European, resembling figures like Merlin and Odin. It should be noted, though, that when an artist portrayed Gandalf as looking like Merlin, Tolkien said it was too Disney-fied, and if you know Tolkien, he hated Disney. If this type of hat is not what was envisioned, then what was? A wide-brimmed hat, but with a tall point? We'll come back to that. Gandalf also smokes, which in a pre-Renaissance world would be a strictly Native American activity. Getting into the history of Numenor, where pipeweed came from in Middle-earth, and its inspiration, would take forever, but suffice to say, smoking is not unique to Gandalf. Same with Glamdring. It's hard enough to classify any sword to just one culture, but this isn't even Gandalf's sword, as it originated in Gondolin over an age before Gandalf arrived at the Grey Havens. Likewise, Narya the Ring is neither easily identifiable, nor even Gandalf's own personal item. So do we only have a hat and a cloak to go by in terms of coded items? Well, if you've been paying attention, you'd know I intentionally left one aspect unmentioned: fireworks. Gandalf is a skilled pyrotechnician, as evidenced in The Hobbit, but he shows this most in his ability to put on a fireworks show. Where do fireworks come from? Not ancient England, not medieval Scandinavia, but Tang Dynasty China. Now I know this isn't how Gandalf is normally portrayed, but as a medieval Chinese man, other things start to make sense. Staffs and swords are both used in traditional Chinese martial arts, whereas staff weapons aren't really a thing in Nordic culture. The hat also potentially resembles a do li, a type of straw hat commonly recognized throughout the world that came from China. Even the story somewhat makes sense with the history of Tang Dynasty China. A religious figure forced to go to war, but being astoundingly good at it? Doesn't that sound a bit like the Shaolin monks? Okay, so is it really possible that Tolkien intended for Gandalf to be Chinese? Probably not, but I still don't see a reason for him to include fireworks if this was truly a strictly European story, as some of its fans would like to suggest. The Lord of the Rings is beloved around the world because it tells stories with universal truths, but also because of the wide range of influence that went into its texts. I see Gandalf as Chinese. You may not. But I think we can probably agree that Gandalf isn't a character just for one country or skin color, and that sometimes multiple sources can inspire art, even if the artist is unaware that he is being inspired. And that's the source of the rings. In the comments below, please tell me what character you would like to see some potential origins for next time.